Hey guys, this is Alex from Kingsway Church production team, bringing you the third part in our series here on Lightkey. In this video, we're going to talk about the relationship between ProPresenter and Lightkey and how we have MIDI cues set up to cue certain things. On a Sunday, like I said, we have somebody running ProPresenter and somebody running lighting. We like to have as many light cues fired by the actual lighting person as we can, but sometimes for certain transition parts, it just makes more sense to have ProPresenter fire it so that everything kind of moves at the same time. So these computers are networked together on our production network. They are sending MIDI messages from the ProPresenter computer over Boom MIDI Network Pro. Which is super solid. It's better than using the built-in audio MIDI networking that Macs have. It's just a little bit more reliable. It's been super solid for us. It reconnects when you restart your computer. So that's been great. So it also sends MIDI messages. We have a second ProPresenter computer that is controlling the smaller LED wall that you can see. That's the lower display. And the main display is controlled by this ProPresenter computer here. So right now I'm in our pre-service lighting queue, as you can see over here. And we have our pre-service announcements that are firing, and they're on a loop and going through different parts here. Then we have our pre-roll. So our pre-roll is a 6-minute like kind of countdown video kind of thing that the band plays along to that last minute and a half part to. And so when that fires, that'll automatically fire. It's set up through the calendar in ProPresenter. And that will automatically fire 6 minutes before the start of each service. So when I click on this, though, we should see, if I open up our pre-roll folder here, we have pre-roll start, pre-roll band in, and pre-roll band big. So like I said, the band is playing along to the last part of it. And so since this is a video over here on ProPresenter, I can set different cue points to change as the video advances. So as I fire this, we should see over here, it moves down to our pre-roll start section here. Let me turn up the audio so we can hear it. All right, now as you can see in the video timeline, there's different little markers here. That's where the MIDI cues are going to advance the different parts of the song. So if we skip ahead to this part here, once it hits that, we'll see the cue change. So now this is the part that the band's playing along to. So that changes a little bit just to kind of signify that something's happening in the room. It's a little bit different. And so when we get to the very end, there's a part where it kind of gets a little bit bigger. So we just have like a little bit bigger of a cue in there. So it changes to that. And you can see there's one more cue point on here, so that's going to be the crash out. So we have no front lights on yet. This is just kind of intro music to get people, ready to worship. And then when it gets to that last point, it'll go to our crash out cue, which is kind of everything on at that point. And that's when our worship leader is going to welcome people and just kind of, get everybody ready for worship. So when we go to the first song, the drummer is going to fire Ableton, which will fire the tracks that everybody's listening to. Over here on ProPresenter, you can see the first thing here is a motion background. So the motion background of each song triggers the first cue of each song. Now, since this is our opener song, we don't start on a start cue with the lights down, especially since it's a faster song. It kind of starts right away. So you'll see when I click this slide over here, it's going to go right to the intro. And so as we went through in the past video, at this point then, the lighting tech, as the ProPresenter person advances through slides, they're not changing lights anymore. That's the only thing for the song that ProPresenter controls. At this point, it's all timed from somebody that's actually running the lighting computer. And again, we just do that because we like, for different things, we have a little bit more control over it. We could cue out the song completely through Ableton, but I don't like to do that. I like to keep it so we have some flexibility to kind of do things, especially, we're doing this tag of King of Kings here. That's not going to have a clicker guide to that. Basically, it's going to be tagged onto the previous song. So this will give our team some flexibility to kind of move around through different parts of that song depending on the energy of the song. So as the band goes through that song, as you saw in the last video, we would advance through cues until we got to the second song. So they would be, kind of on this refrain real big. We would go to that ending cue so that the lights come down. And then as we were going to go into Trust in God, it's going to fire the next one. Some of the backgrounds and colors are a little off because I don't have them reset for this week yet. But just so you can kind of see, as I clicked that, it changed, the background, the LED wall background, and it started our first lighting cue. And then so whoever is running lights would then be listening to the cues and would basically take back over now to advance through the different cues of the song. As we get to the celebration moment, so that's kind of after worship, whoever's hosting us, or one of our pastors or one of our directors, they'll be coming up to kind of, do like a celebration moment. They'll kind of pray over people. So I have like a little information slide here. None of this actually shows up on the screen, but I'll scroll down here. So when we get to, there's the celebration moment cue. So when we hit that, it automatically goes to that celebration moment cue. It changes the LED background. We don't have a main background on for that part. And then so they'll kind of pray over people. They'll kind of, just kind of give a little encouragement, a word of encouragement. And then after they pray, that's when they'll usually say amen. They'll have people clap. So the energy kind of comes back up. The band will kind of play a little bit more. So we'll hit this first one here, and that takes us to our welcome cue. So that'll bring the house lights up. I have the house lights up anyway right now just for purposes of the video. But that'll bring up the house lights to the welcome cue. And then they'll actually say welcome, and it's got some information on it. And then what they do is they send people to a meet and greet. So if you see here on ProPresenter or on Lightkey, we have a meet and greet queue. We used to have this set up so that it would queue directly from ProPresenter, but sometimes the timing of it wasn't right. So, if I hit this, you'll see it goes back to this, just our stock logo look there, but it doesn't actually change the queue. So the meet and greet is another one that is queued by the person that's doing lighting. So now, as the person says, hey, why don't you greet somebody as you take your seat? As they start to walk off, we go to this. It dims our stage lights. It brings our house lights up so that people can see who they're talking to. And then the band kind of plays out a little bit more just to cover that section. And then we'll typically go to our bumper. You can see where it says family dedications. That's something different we have this week. I won't go through that right now, but so typically we would go right to our bumper. So that's kind of, for our sermon series, whatever we're in. So this is another one that's queued directly from ProPresenter. So if I click this, it's going to fire the lights. It's going to fire that video. And it's going to put us in this queue here. So again, at the end of it, you'll see that there's another queue marker. So when we get to the end of the video, it'll automatically go into our sermon lights, and then we're ready for our sermon. At that point, then we're pretty much on that sermon lighting queue for the entirety of the sermon. When they get to the moment of like a salvation moment where they're asking people, if they want to come to know Jesus, they can lift their hands. Sometimes whoever's speaking will do that. Sometimes the host will come back up and do that moment. We like to just dim the lights a little bit for that moment just to help people feel a little bit more comfortable. We don't want to make it too dim because then people on stage can't see if people are raising their hands. But we do dim it just a little bit just to give it a little bit of a feeling of, okay, the lights came down a little bit, just to make people a little bit more comfortable. And then we have all of our sermon slides in here. Those are just for, they don't do any lighting changes or anything. But then after that celebration, prayer for salvation, we would go into here and then our closing comments. So again, this is our host kind of closing out the service for the last time and kind of going through some more announcements. So that just stays on this closing comments queue. And then the last thing that we do is an end of service song. So this is typically, there's no guide track for this because we typically are doing like half of a song or a portion of a song. So we just have 3 cues in here: low, mid, and big. And so that's kind of up to the lighting person to decide, as the song's progressing, or me as the tech director, I will kind of cue that in there, but it does cue that first slide on the motion background just to start on the low. And then at the very end of that song, as the worship leader is dismissing people, they would hit dismissal, which brings our house lights back up. It also brings our stage lights up because somebody on stage is talking. And then as soon as they're done giving the dismissal, we go to our end of service cue, which brings everything back down and still keeps the house lights up as people are exiting. So that's kind of how ProPresenter and Lightkey kind of work together to run our whole service. That's kind of the overall view of how you would run lighting with ProPresenter involved. So in the next video, probably the last video of this series, there'll be kind of a bonus thing for some of our own people that are doing it, but we're going to actually cue out a new song that we haven't done before. So I'll take you through the process of actually building out a new song and how I program that.